Hello there, and welcome to Sweet Shot of Time Book Club Edition. Yeah, I'm your host, Steve Barnes. This is something new for the new year. A big change for Sweet Shot of Time is in order to return to weekly podcasts, I'm going to switch gears a little bit and do book club episodes. I'm going to do them solo, and the reason being is I made a commitment to read 100 books. I said I was going to read 100 books in 2026, but I don't think that's going to happen. That means like reading a book every 3 days, and that's not possible. But, however long it takes, I'm going to read those 100 books, and I'll release these shorty episodes each week, discussing one book each week along my reading journey. I'm going to be doing this solo, and there's some pros and cons to that. The pros is it's easier to schedule. I can just do this myself at my own pace, at my own time. So this will be reliable and weekly. These will be shorter episodes because of that, which I'm really happy about that. Probably like a half an hour or less, I'm guessing. I can't imagine any of these episodes being a half an hour or more than a half an hour, I should say. Less distractions. I'll be more quick and to the point and less, going off on tangents like I usually do. I guess the cons of this is, you're not going to have James, so you're not going to have his funny chime-ins and stories. You're not going to have Lindsay with, her thoughtful discussion. No Nate or Corwin to, have fun and goof along with. It's just going to be me. So that's your con right there. I still, of course, want to do the TV recaps. I will be doing Welcome to Derry Season 2, provided that comes out with Lindsay. 100 Years of Solitude Season 2, providing that comes out with Lindsay. I'd like to continue doing the Highlander journey whenever James gives me the green light and wants to keep doing that. You're not going to have the usual back and forth, but don't worry. I excel in talking to myself, and there's Hopper right there sitting with me. So, there's two of us in the room, just like any other podcast. So weekly, you're going to start seeing these book club episodes. The thumbnail of the podcast episode that you're probably seeing on your phone or whatever right now, that's going to be the book cover that I'll be discussing each week. So that leads us to what book is it this week? It's The Heroes. That's this one. It's by Joe Abercrombie. This one came out in 2011. Page count, 567 pages. This was published by Gollancey, a UK publisher, which is a subsidiary of Orion Publishing. This came recommended to me by the Hollywood Handbook podcast. The two guys who host that, Sean Clemens and Hayes Davenport, they goof around a lot and they play Hollywood snobs, but they let their personal interests slip into the conversation. And it's obvious that they're fans of Joe Abercrombie and this particular series. So that was my, shoe into this world. This book is The Heroes. It's a standalone novel, but it's set within the First Law universe. So really, you could just read this book by itself, but it'd really be best if you read the entire trilogy first. This is the first and probably only time I'm going to recommend a book that is part of a series. Most of the other books I've been reading, I've read 11 other books so far that I'll be discussing in the future. All those are just standalone books. So I'm not going to be recommending a lot of trilogies like this, but this one, it'd really be a cool idea to dive into it. This is part of the First Law trilogy. The first book being The Blade Itself. The second book, Before They Are Hanged. Third book being The Last Argument of Kings. I'd recommend this definitely if you're a Game of Thrones fan. If you're waiting for the Winds of Winter and you haven't already read this series, this is a great one to fill in that gap. I'm going to read the book overview. This comes from our book overlords, the Amazon. But I got to admit, they did a pretty good write-up of this book. So I'm going to read it right now. And this is straight from Amazon.com. Book overview: The Heroes. They say Black Dowls killed more men than Winter and clawed his way to the throne of the North up a hill of skulls. The King of the Union, ever a jealous neighbor, is not about to stand smiling by while he claws his way any higher. The orders have been given, and the armies are toiling through the northern mud. Thousands of men are converging on a forgotten ring of stones, on a worthless hill, in an unimportant valley, and they brought a lot of sharpened metal with them. Bremer Dan Gorst, disgraced master swordsman, has sworn to reclaim his stolen honor on the battlefield. Obsessed with redemption and addicted to violence, he's far past caring how much blood gets spilled in the attempt, even if it's his own. Prince Calder isn't interested in honor and still less in getting himself killed. All he wants is power, and he'll tell any lie, use any trick, and betray any friend to get it, just as long as he doesn't have to fight for it himself. Curden Craw, the last honest man in the North, has gained nothing from a life of warfare but swollen knees and frayed nerves. He hardly even cares who wins anymore. He just wants to do the right thing. But can he even tell what that is with the world burning down around him? Over 3 bloody days of battle, the fate of the North will be decided. But with both sides riddled with intrigues, foils, feuds, and petty jealousies, it is unlikely to be the noblest hearts or even the strongest arms that prevail. Here's the hook. 3 men, 1 battle, no heroes. So yeah, that was worth reading. That's a really good write-up of these 3 main characters. It is ironic. This book is called The Heroes, and they say here there is no heroes, which is kind of true. Here's my layman's term of what this book is about. It's set in a world which has magical potential, and like the true leaders of this world are divided starkly on the Union and the North, these 2 opposing sides. And they're definitely aware of this magical potential, and they're able to do acts of magic very sparingly. The false people in power, like the kings, monarchs, small councils, things like that, they're largely unaware of this magical potential of the world. See, they're being like blindly led by the true leaders, who are these immortals. They're pretty much powerful immortals who remain hidden in plain sight. So you have like these 2 opposing sides, the Union and the North. So the Union is divided into 5 divisions with like captains, officers, and generals. And the North is divided into war chiefs. These are like more rustic dudes. And throughout this story, The Heroes, the main strategy is amongst the leaders of the Union and the North, but you also have jockeying for position, higher position, these war chiefs and officers who are, behind the scenes, like have their own motivations within this 3-day battle. The main thing here is really the characters, their interactions, like their inner thoughts and motives, and watching them change throughout this story. So this whole thing takes place over just 3 days of a messy battle. When it comes to rating this book, I rate it a 3 out of 5, and I would probably rate it much higher. This is a much higher rated book among fantasy fans. Most fans think this is like the best action book, the best book about battles ever done. I don't disagree, but it's just not my speed, really. I'm not really, when I read books like this whole series, the First Law trilogy series and the books that come after it, I'm really more into like the character development, the political intrigue, the different perspectives. When it comes to things like battles and like action and describing a big sprawling battle like over the span of like 50 pages, that's not really my speed. I don't love reading that. And that's what this book highly, like the last third of the book is, which is why I give it a 3 out of 5, because I didn't enjoy it quite as much. If you're into that kind of thing, which a lot of people who are into fantasy are into this kind of thing, then you'll probably think it's much better. Roses and Thorns, I'm going to probably start doing that each episode, or some variety of like what I liked a lot and what I didn't like about it. I think I just told you what I didn't like about it. I didn't like the muddy battles and like the strategies and all that stuff. That's what I didn't like about it. What I did like about it is the multiple character point of view. So like one incident might happen, but you'll get this global perspective from different sides of the action, which makes it a lot more appealing to read. It's like tied together in a really neat, fun way. Like, his paragraphs and the way he goes from character to character is really interesting. And I should say, like, he always writes from that character first person point of view, and he does that among multiple characters. I'd say about 12 to 24 characters you get like in their head, and that's where your point of view is coming from. So, the dialogue is very fun to read. It's honestly like funny, like these characters talking to each other. It's good stuff. Written in a very modern voice, I would say. You might say woke, like say, whoa, this is woke because there's black characters and there's this woman warrior and they're not supposed to be warriors. What's she doing out there? This is woke. Yeah, maybe it is. This is like a book written from a modern point of view. So, I don't know. It's like this messy reality of combat. He goes into like really interesting details as opposed to like these heroic stories and heroic ideals. He gets into the gritty of it. So, that's what I liked about this. So yeah, the heroes, Joe Abercrombie, rating this 3 out of 5. Give me one pause and I can tell you what I'm going to be reading or talking about next week. Next week is going to be Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. I'll go into that book the same way I went into the heroes today. I have a spoilers section here. So before I get into the spoilers, let me just say, check me out on Instagram, follow me there. It's Sweet Shot of Time Pod on Instagram. You can write into the show at sweetshotoftimepod@gmail.com. And the website is sweetshotoftime.com. Pretty simple. Oh, yeah, and I can do my Zencastr read before we get into spoilers. You want some spoilers? You got to listen to some Zencastr first. Zencastr live read. Zencastr is what I use to make this podcast. I'm using it right now. You can dial in with multiple friends on podcast. You can record video and audio. I'm looking at myself on video right now. It's a great screen. It's really easy to edit and to do this, but I only release audio versions. So I'm just using the audio file. Again, very simple and easy to use. There's a little chat feature on the side you can use with the people you're recording with. So you can have secret little chat sessions over there. Zencastr, I think I'm supposed to say, it's time to share your story with Zencastr.com. Okay, some spoilers about this book. I don't know. There's so much going on with this book. I don't really want to spoil anything. There's a really interesting character, Cracknut War Run, I think is how you say his name. And he's a very interesting, very funny character with a cool sword. Like a huge, gigantic, great sword that he swings around. And it's apparently he's inherited this from someone and he has to inherit it to someone else as well. And if he draws his sword, he has to shed blood with it. So if he draws his sword and like nothing happens, like everybody's peaceful, he like slices his hand so the sword can taste blood every time it's drawn. And his sense of humor is very much like, I would describe it as like Deadpool except dumber. Like, you know how Deadpool is always like really like witty and he's like quippy. Cracknut tries to be like that, but he's a lot dumber. But he has that same like quick sense of humor, just not quite as clever. So I mean, that's not a spoiler or anything. That's just a character description in this book. You know, I guess he might have been my favorite character because I'm talking about him now. The main characters were pretty good. The three main characters you're supposed to be following are this Bremer Dan Gorst. He's a hard character to like. But nonetheless, you know, I don't hate any of these characters. But he's the one I probably like the least of these three. Prince Calder, I enjoy him. He's like the son of the King of the North, and he has a brother that's older than him, that's a better warrior. So there's a little bit of power struggle there with Prince Calder, and he's a very smart dude, but he doesn't fight whatsoever. He talks his way out of every fight, which is fun. And then there's other guy, Curtin Craw. You can rewind back and read what the Amazon description was of all these folks, but Curtin Craw was like just a guy in his 50s that's just been there, done that, and is just tired and is just like, sure, whatever. I just want to go to bed. And you never really quite know whose side he's on. So until next week, when we're talking about Station 11, I will make my sign off now. Until then, there I go one more time. I hope you find water and shade and shoes. Bye there. So this is part of the first law. This is part of the First Law trilogy. 3 books. The first book being The Blade Itself. The second book